Hello everyone, welcome to my review of Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. For those who don't know, this book's actually part of his secret projects which came out a few years ago, and there's 4 of the books, and I have 3 of them on my shelf here, and these 3 here are the ones from the Cosmere universe. So of course you have Tress in the Emerald Sea, the Sunlit Man, and then you have Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. Now, just to give you a quick review of how I do my ratings to these kind of books, and again, if you haven't seen the last one, this is why I'm doing this, is I do it out of 5 stars. And just because I give something a 3 doesn't mean I think it's bad. And so when I do number 1, it's a 1 star, essentially it was very poor, 2 is below average, 3 is average, 4 is above average, and 5 is excellent. Now, excellent doesn't mean it's a perfect book. I just think it's really liked it. I really had good feelings with it. And again, ratings are subjective. So if you've read this book, I'm curious to see what your rating is on it. But anyway, I'm going to give a synopsis of the story to keep it spoiler free, because there will be a spoiler section of this story, but also give some details which I think kind of help you paint the picture of this, if this is a book you would like to get into. And so just to talk about kind of the fantasy idea of this book, it's not classic fantasy, but it is like a romance fantasy story. And so you have 2 main characters, or the protagonists in this story. You have Yumi, of course, who, just to let you know, Yumi, and I can't remember if it was an article or a video or a stream or something like that, where Brandon Sanderson said that he was inspired by Yuna from Final Fantasy X, and mainly just that whole game with the spirits and stuff inspired Yumi in this book, which when I played Final Fantasy X years ago, I've beaten the game, I really liked it. When I was reading this book, I couldn't help, kept imagining Yuna in the story, because in her setting, everything's way past Japan, the way they wear the certain clothing they wear, and the very certain etiquette and things like that, and technology they had. And then you jump to the other main character, the painter, whose real name is Nakaro. They say it enough times that you'll remember it, but most of the time they refer to him as Painter. And we'll get to that in a second. And he lives in a very futuristic era. Yeah, there's still noodle shops and whatnot. But there's these 2 neon lights that give you the light in the world, which is the magenta, and I think it was teal. I'll put the correction if I couldn't remember. Basically red and blue. And if you look at the cover, it's in there, which I really do like. This cover art, I think it's amazing. They did a very good job showcasing that. I love when you read stories and you look at the cover and go, oh, I understand why they did that, and they did such a phenomenal job with this. It was amazing. And if speaking of art, I'll probably be using pictures of fan art throughout this video, because as I even looked today and after finishing the book, I thought the fan art did a very good job just showcasing moments of the story, and I just thought it was super beautiful. But anyway, so just a quick description of the setting, if this is something you're interested in. Like I said, the future and past kind of approach, but just mainly the magical talk about it, because Brandon Sanderson does a very good job creating these fantasy worlds. It's usually some kind of, which I can't think of a better word. I don't want to say gimmick, but it's the thing that comes to mind that kind of gives it a unique feel to the world. And so on his planet, Painter's planet, again, like I said, it's very futuristic, and they have these special lights that light up the city. The city is surrounded by this shroud or miasma, black ink, darkness. They don't really see the sun, and they see a dot in the sky. And these creatures called nightmares enter out of the shroud into their city. And so this is what when Nakaro comes in as the painter. The painters are this trained force of fighters. They patrol the cities almost like cops in a way, and they're supposed to fight nightmares, and they fight them by painting. And I don't want to go too deep because it'll spoil it, but they basically can paint and fight off these nightmares until they become too stable, which is called a stable nightmare. It's a big monster. You'll learn more as you read it. And so that's a pretty cool element. It gives it a unique thought, none of the other books he's written is like that, which I really do appreciate. Now, I'm going to actually go into the spoilers of this story. And so, for the spoilers, I will say this book actually has made me cry at the very end of the book, which it's hard for me to cry reading books. But the funny thing is, Brandon Sanderson has made me cry every time I've read a book. So this is the third time he's made me cry. I've come closer to crying, like I felt feelings, but this is the third time while reading other books. And it was him again. And I was like choking up, and it was such a wonderful moment. And of course, it's a love story, and it was between Yumi, I was about to say Yumi and Nakaro at the very end after the big fight. About they're talking like through their mind, and even though it's spoilers, I'll still keep something spoiler free in case you want to get into the book. About a callback from earlier in the book, which you may not think it was so important, about when they're watching their TV dramas and how like not everybody has a happy ending, and then she makes that comment to it, and I was choking up about it. But that wasn't the part that made me cry. The part that made me cry was at the first epilogue, because there's 2 epilogues in the story, which I thought was interesting. It was like another epilogue. But anyway, the part where they destroy the miasma, they destroy the main thing, which I'm going to keep it spoiler free still, and then Yumi is passing on, and then Nakaro takes that moment to like paint the beautiful scenery and paint her, and it brings her back into existence. And that's what the part made me cry. I was like, he is getting that happy ending. It was so beautiful. Like, if you haven't read it, please read it. It's such an amazing ending, I thought. I want to say, like, I really did feel like the friendship plot with Nakaro, I felt like was handled pretty well, in my opinion. Yeah, he had friends. He did a deed that made them not like them. And then I love how you see Yumi stand up for him, and then they didn't like totally hate him enough to like completely disassociate with him, and they ended up coming back to him at the very end, and I thought it was pretty believable. Even that little banter between, I think it's Kane's her name, the girl that lives across the hallway from Nakaro, about like if he's lying and this doesn't happen, he needs to seek help. It was and like those small little details helped make this kind of like subplot feel more organic and had a good wrap up to it. I did really enjoy the swapping between Yumi and Nakaro. I thought it did keep a great pace in the story. Because some people say, oh, this gets boring if you're on the one side of the story. Which I'm not going to completely say. I don't think it felt boring anytime it got to Yumi. Like, I think Sanderson did just enough on her planet that it did keep it interesting in a very good way. Like, I think maybe there was only like one chapter I was kind of like, and it was like the bathhouse scene. They go to the bathhouse thing like a lot. It's part of this ritual routine that's important to the story. Once you read it, you know what it is. But everything else I thought was really good. I love the pacing of the chapters. Eventually it does get to shorter chapters. It's like 5 or 6 pages a chapter or something, and they're usually not that short, but as it gets closer to the end, like the last 100 pages, usually if you're familiar with Sanderson's works, they usually explode and they're like boom, boom, boom. Big things happen last 100 pages, and this one definitely it happens, and I think it's great. I love that kind of stuff. I really did like the whole like, kind of fish out of water thing, and I know some people don't like that trope, but I do. I like it if it's handled well, with Yumi experiencing like this futuristic stuff, experiencing things for herself. As you know, for her character, how she's basically gives herself to the people, and this is her chance to do something for herself, and I thought it was really enjoyable. I really liked it. Thought it was handled pretty well. I will say I think one of my favorite parts was within this story, Wit comes in, and he's basically like a narrator in a sense, and I really do enjoy how his little interjections and how like Design comes in, and I thought Design was really funny. I thought she did a good job helping our protagonists go through the story. And I like how they wrapped it up at the end with Wit and Design. I really want to kind of keep it, again, that spoiler free, because anytime like Wit comes in, he usually he's basically there to give you like exposition in a way, and then at the very end, he gives you all the information to wrap up your questions that you had that weren't answered throughout the story, which I thought it was fine. I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was quite enjoyable. Then he was like, I'm out, and he leaves. So I thought that was cool. So I want to get to the rating of this story. So I actually gave this story 5 out of 5. I gave it 5 stars. I think it easily deserved it. It was an enjoyable read. It was a quick read. It only took me this amount of time to read it. I just kept finding myself not putting it down. I enjoyed it more than my last book, which is funny because I gave that 5 stars too, but they're both excellent books. Now, I do highly recommend reading this though. Now, I didn't mention this in the non-spoilers, but I want to mention it here since we're doing the ratings. I feel like if you have read Stormlight Archive or Mistborn, it definitely, or even Elantris, it does enhance your experience with Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. You can technically, yes, you could read Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by itself, but you don't really appreciate like wit or design or anytime they make a reference to the other planets from the other series enough. Now, like I'm putting myself in a position, like let's say you haven't read any of the other works but this one. Yeah, like you can understand like, oh, that's a planet, but you don't fully appreciate or comprehend the magnitude of what they're comparing it to. Now, that doesn't really make your experience with the book way worse. I don't think so at all, because it's not really that important to the story with Yumi and Nakaro. But it definitely helps. Because again, just to remind you, I've read all the Sanderson works except The Lost Metal, which is the most recent Mistborn book. Because technically Yumi was like on my list. I just read it, so now I'm down to 1 book. I even have read White Sand. It's up there in the comics section somewhere. I've read all the other works. I might even do a ranking of like what was my favorite books sometime. That'd be kind of fun. But anyway, so that was my review of Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. I hope you enjoyed it. My next book on my TBR is The Crown of Swords by Robert Jordan. I actually just finished the prologue. It was almost 50 pages, and I'm like, I mean, I'm enjoying it as a quick review. Actually, I had to watch a summary video of the last book, so it's been a bit since I read the last book, just to catch me up and remind me of like, oh, this is what happened. Because where it starts in the prologue, basically there was like a big fight in the end of the last book, if you're a Wheel of Time person. And like this picks up, or not picks up, I guess picks up's the word. It takes place in the middle of that fight. And so we had to like go back in time a little bit from the other perspectives, because it jumped around like 4 or 5 different people within the prologue. But I digress. I'm just kind of chatting right now. But yeah, thanks. If you liked this book or want to read it, please make a comment. Hope to see you next time. Later.